Welcome back to the Culture of Currency. We have another newspaper here, Wall Street Journal. This would be the Saturday-Sunday edition, January 25th, 26th, right here. And we are talking, of course, of the effects of gold and silver crystals here, beautifully made by one of my viewers, and the gold back here, which are going to be very important here in the future. So we first start off with what did the major indexes do? We have the Dow Jones Industrial, which for this week was down a little bit. A little bit down. We have 140 points there. The S&P 500, and I'm just trying to put everything in context, down 17.47 points. And the NASDAQ Composite sat there down at 99.38. We're here just putting everything in context. I'm not telling you what things did or didn't do outside of what the numbers say, nor am I telling you what you should do with your money. So here's our big winners and losers column, my favorite part because we get to kind of see a macro understanding. So our 0 point is way down here at the bottom. We had some interesting gainers and some interesting losers for this week. Big in the gaining category, 2.54%, the Mexican peso, which has been low for a little while. So we saw a little bit of rise in the Mexican peso. I know we have a lot of trade negotiations going on in the States with Mexico, and so that is going to be interesting to watch when it comes to an economic output for our economy. S&P 500 Industrials is still on a tear. Industrials, of course, have to do with logistics, manufacturing, energy, a lot of things like that. And it'll be interesting to see how long that rides the wave. The Norwegian krone is another little currency that, sometimes means a little bit because the Norwegians are huge when it comes to international shipping. Euro is up. That's obviously a big time, I wouldn't say competition with the dollar, but it's a good marker of where the dollar is when we compare it with the euro and what used to be the Great Britain pound, the United Kingdom pound, I should probably say. But those two have always been really good comparables. The Dow Jones Industrial, as we just looked at, it sits at 2.15 for the winners and losers. We've got here natural gas, energy, going up big time. That's good. 2% on natural. We got gold finally sitting there at 1.2. Gold has been up the past couple of weeks. We've tracked this, and it is still up, though it is seemingly declining in the ferocity of which it is rose, but it is still up 1.2, which is great. S&P Consumer Staples still up here. That's a good one to watch because that's talking about people buying stuff. Are people going out and spending the money, which, creates tax revenue and all that kind of stuff. Speaking of tax revenue, we saw recently that the administration is looking at opening tariffs to offset things like even all the way over to income tax, which, whether or not you think that's good is worth talking about, but I had to look into the history to say, has that ever happened and did it work? And sure enough, it has happened before. We used to be apparently all about tariffs, and it made all of our federal dollars until the early 1900s. And then eventually we created an income tax, I believe in 1913, somewhere in there, and have stuck with that ever since. So the history is there to say it can be done in at least the world that they lived in. Can it be scalable to the world that we live in? What does that look like? I don't know. It's a great question, but it would probably require at least a proportion of items to be made in the states in each sector, which, as we saw in COVID, might be a good thing because if calamity strikes, you can manufacture in-house all the needs that you need. All right, so the Canadian dollar is also up. Good thing for Canada as you go into negotiations as well with the United States. It seems that you have grown up too. COMEX silver, that's the commodity right here, silver. It is up. It was down last week. It has risen, and we saw silver rising around the $30 mark. That's at 0.23, percentage points. And then we're going to move over to the losers. Got a handful of losers here to talk about. negative 1.10. Some of you are really strong on copper. I actually am not sure exactly where this is going to go. As we saw, there might be some movement to say that we should eradicate the penny. And that's because the penny costs 3 cents to manufacture, which means hundreds of millions of dollars, I think around $200 million in lost value just to create the penny. And obviously it's a lot of copper. So if the United States Mint no longer sources copper, what does that mean for the market? And with people like China spending over $1 billion to buy copper mines in Serbia and other places, what does that mean for the copper? I'm not sure exactly how much the pie piece is for copper in the penny, but it is worth noting. We also have the dollar index. Look at that big dropper there. I thought that was very interesting. The dollar being negative 1.50% there. So, and then we have a bunch of our commodity things like gasoline and crude down here that have dropped in value, and we shall see here in the coming weeks with the permits and things that we've been told that will be released for energy, what that means for these prices. So those are all things worth looking at. Once again, commodities down here. If you want to take a look at that, there's the chart for commodities. We have one other area to take a look at just to get a picture focus of what happened this week in the stock market. And that is going to be our futures. I'm not going to talk much about this because I don't like to speculate, but I'll at least show you where the futures lie. As you can see, copper up there seems to be top on the list. But a lot of good things to look at. I hope you enjoyed this little market report. Silver and gold seem to be in a good place. And I'll have a video soon. There's some legislation I just found that I need to read to you. It's not too long, it's only a couple of pages, but it is something happening with gold and silver in a very large state that's going to be voted on this year, and if passed, we will have silver and gold as a backed currency option in this state, which will be very, very interesting because it will be the largest state to have done so, and it will mean that we might have some cool currencies like gold backs in a brand new state. So we just saw Florida pop on the list for gold backs. This one is even bigger than Florida. So it's very interesting to see where this goes. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, please remember to stay classy and current with the culture of currency.